Awesome, man.
Akil, what's going on, man?
What's going on, man? I'm just really glad to have you.
I'm honored to be with you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
You've been writing a lot of stuff for a long time about multiple industries and been ahead of all tech waves. It seems like you've become just a great source on the internet, on all social media platforms for some of your original work and writing and research, as you're hosting events, attending things, and then workshopping with a lot of just the various sets of audiences in SF in person. Curious about just like what you're seeing that's different in this wave from others, and that's a lot of what you have been writing about recently, but just if you could articulate that verbally, that'd be great.
Sure. Yeah, I'm kind of a veteran here in Silicon Valley. I was an intern straight out of college in the .com era, and it feels, so that's web, for those that don't know, that's Web 1.0, that's when the internet started, and it feels a lot like that. It's that big a movement. Chris and I, and Chris Ye, who wrote the book Blitzscaling with Reid Hoffman, we talk about this as being as big as the Industrial Revolution. And the Industrial Revolution changed society, changed business, changed the way we measure time. It changed the way that when kids go to school, like everything in the world changed. And we exchanged muscle power for mechanical power. And here we are now in the AI revolution, and we're exchanging brain power, cognitive power for computing power. And so it's going to change every single industry, every single role. And one reason I know this to be true is because people are actually frightened. When it came to Web3, people said, no, I don't see the value. When it came to sharing economy, they're like, yeah, great for urban people, or okay, sure, I don't believe it, but then after a while, they're like, okay. But this one's different. Akil, people are not questioning if it's going to happen. They're questioning how it could help or hurt them. So that is a new behavior that I haven't seen. Back to you.
Yeah, they're no longer questioning capabilities.
They're not questioning.
Anymore, right?
They know it's going to happen. Because now we've been through at least 5 tech trends in 20 years. And now they go, okay, we know it's going to happen again.
Yeah. If we can get like esoteric for a moment, where does society go with all this? So now we're superseding biomechanical limitations of a human. We don't need to lift a box anymore because we've trained a computer vision model to do some warehouse work or something in Amazon factories.
Eventually,
and also,
yes.
And also quality assurance. Yeah, we're talking about the eventuallys right now. So those people who are like, how does this hurt me or whatever, what can they do to get on board given, that's the question that comes after, is what do I do in reaction to this? But where do you see things going in terms of like how things play out in real-time society?
So there's a question, the first question people go, am I going to be replaced? Am I going to become irrelevant?
Yeah.
And the honest answer is some jobs will be lost. Some jobs will be created. But every single job will change. There's no question. Yeah. And I think the same thing applies to society as well. It's going to have, I don't think we can actually imagine all the things, but I think it depends on one's outlook in the world, but also how many resources do they have. So somebody with a lot of resources is probably going to be more optimistic about AI because they can weather the storm. People who are already struggling, they might have a more pessimistic attitude to what AI could do, or they might so I think there's a lot of context. But for sure, over the next 10 years, this will be the biggest change of our lives, for sure, Akil.
This is incredible. There's something interesting there where it's our species isn't evolving. We're still going to have basic needs in terms of food and shelter from Maslow's hierarchy perspective.
Yeah.
Things I've been trying to communicate and why I'm personally a little bit more freaked out at the moment.
You're freaked out?
Yeah, in terms of like how do people have their basic needs met? And again, we're going to get to the point about Sam Altman / OpenAI openly talking about universal basic income. I think that is a huge signal that folks should pay more attention to. Just the fact that they're doing it is something that's alarming to me, in a sense.
Alarming, good or bad?
I think good or bad is subjective. It means things are shifted already. The federal government's now taking this meeting with this person. That was not necessarily on their radar last year. Maybe it was.
On that point, I've never seen the government move this fast for a tech trend.
Exactly.
Ever.
Yeah.
So November is when we saw GBT 2022 pop up.
Yeah.
And as of June 2023, that's this month, the European government's already put out policies or pre-policies on regulating AI.
Exactly.
They moved in 6 months. Never seen that. They wait till something's broken, usually.
Yeah. Or it's going to hurt their economy or publicly hurt country or tourism.
But usually they can't respond till the damage has been done.
Exactly.
So I've never seen them be proactive before.
So what I'm thinking, well, also probably because the constituents are freaking out now, and they rely on the labor
Everybody
economies
knows
there.
this is real.
There's something there where if we can work together enough as a unified front as a species, maybe we'll meet our basic needs. I'm talking about physiological needs right now. We're not getting into existential things at the moment. We're just talking about like the resources needed for us to sustain ourselves in terms of the population of the planet and the growing population of the planet. Elon Musk claims it's decreasing. We're not going to get into that. Like why he has 9 kids.
Yeah, I'm not going to comment on that.
It's like just a funny Twitter meme space. The thing I'm trying to get at here is I'm freaking out because of this distribution for basic resources that was sent out during the pandemic. In California, we saw something like a $1,200 check, but that was like 6 or 7 months later for rent.
And the P checks.
Yeah, and the PP checks were just, and the way things actually played out in real time, who got what, people were pretty hurt and lost, and that was just a bad experience in terms of, and it created more some distrust between just like a local society. And we can do better in terms of like maybe with all the emerging tech happening at the same time, and AI is closing these intervals of releases of technology. We're talking about hard tech, we're talking about neurotech, things like this, longevity, biotech, things of this nature. But maybe there's a world here where, this is my optimistic outlook, I'm hoping that folks can get food and shelter through some means, because our net aggregate output just on the planet is just more efficient, more effective, and we're having more like food available.
So productivity,
cheaper.
that's probably going to increase.
Yeah.
But the question is on who owns what. And right now, most of the resources are still owned by a small few. So that's a very different topic on economic models.
Yeah, that's exactly
Productivity,
right.
I've seen stats from AI could go up 20 to 30%, which means that's a lot, by the way. So imagining just working 4 days a week because you don't need to work the 5th day because you're more productive. That's pretty significant.
Yeah. What goes down in terms of like where folks can expect socioeconomic mobility, but also just like basic needs being met and have a functional society, right? What goes in your head there? We're talking about jobs that are going to be lost, and we're just mentioning this.
And some jobs will be created.
Some jobs will be created. Is there going to be some level where, now that we're functioning at a higher baseline level of society, where we have food and shelter met, or some needs there?
It's going to vary by country.
Sure.
And also, United States is in a unique position where most of the AI is being created here. And the countries that do not have a tech hub, they're going to fall behind, and they will end up being subservient to the countries that are creating the AI. Or the countries that actually have the data, which the AI needs in order to ingest and train, they have an opportunity as well. So countries who are not tech leaning are going to fall behind, sadly. Sorry, it's the truth.
Do you think we'll go into an oligopoly state where the few companies at the very top owning the models, owning the infrastructure, owning the compute, just like run everything?
So I think
Are we trending in that direction?
Yes, I think that is the question, is are we already in that state? And the answer is yes. There's already a few big giant tech companies that own most of the tech.
Yeah.
And it's already centralized with these large companies. But here's an opportunity for the open source community to build new tools and have open data and to do that. But there's a dichotomy here, because some people say that the open source AI models are not secure and can be manipulated and influenced, and they're dangerous. And so some people say a closed model run by a few. Maybe it could be a nonprofit, which is how OpenAI started. Maybe it could be a foundation, right? Anthropic has some elements of benefit type of company. So I think we have to re-examine governance and ownership in addition to this. These are heady topics, by the way, that people don't usually ask me about.
Yeah, we didn't come here to be heady either. I came here and talked about the things you do write about. I'm learning a lot from what you write about.
Thanks.
It's a great conversation starter.
I learned from you.
Thank you. Let's get into the less heady, the more gritty. I want
Sure.
to make money in 2023. It's end of June. Let's start there. If you were a founder in another country, what would you be doing right now?
A
All
lot
you
of the
have is the internet.
information is already out there on YouTube. There's repositories on GitHub, and you can go to Hugging Face. Like, there's a lot of things already out there. And you can join a lot of the communities out there. For example, Cerebral Valley has that Slack group that there's a lot of people a part of, and there's other groups as well.
Yeah.
So I would just start with the internet research and internet networking. 2,
Exactly.
I would be attending AI events in my area as fast as possible. So when I decided to go full force into AI, I made a personal commit to go to 3 AI events in San Francisco per week. Per week. For you and I, that's like kind of normal. But when I tell people that, I was just in New York last week, when I said I go to 3 tech AI events per week, they couldn't believe it. I go, guys, there's 3 events per day. 3 a week is actually, I don't know, I'm slacking off.
Yeah.
But I recognize in other markets, they might have one event per month, one AI event. Make sure you're at those events. Make friends with everybody. And then start to host your own AI events. Obviously, the conversation if you're in different countries is going to be very different. What is AI? Is it going to destroy us? It's going to be very different than building. And then what I would also do, if you can, is save up money and get to a tech hub. Go visit a tech hub, whether it's London, Paris, Singapore, Hong Kong, Shanghai. Get to San Francisco if you can. The AI epicenter is in SF. And get out here for at least 2 weeks at a time and network. Like, I meet founders that fly in for events, and they're here for 2 weeks, and they go to all these events and they network, and then they go back to wherever they came from. And that's kind of normal, actually, I feel. Like, I don't feel like there's a lot of people that are from the Bay Area. Like, you were born here, which is extremely rare. I wasn't even born here, but I've been here for 27 years. So get to SF if you want to be in AI. Figure it out. I realize it's hard with visas and the cost and the flights.
Yeah.
But I gave you a sequence of things to lead up to that.
This is great in terms of an information gathering stage and position. Can we get into the mental models around entrepreneurship? Like, you're creating economical value, you should be rewarded for this. So I have been preaching this small thesis, but obviously this is just low-hanging fruit at this point in San Francisco. But other folks are astounded and believe it once they hear it outside of SF, which is the cost to produce an MVP of anything is asymptotically towards zero right now.
Any content.
Anything. Yeah.
Coding, cost of everything. Actually, I want to rephrase that, if I may. The cost of producing average or good content, including code, is zero. But producing great content or code is more than zero.
For right now, there's a world where all the free tools, everyone's just like paywall or we a licensed provider, and everyone has to pay some sort of fee to use AI. Cheap. But we don't know what the future is. As of today, free, while they're still in data collection and training mode. I am curious then, what would you do at that point in time if you had to go ahead and learn about mental models for value creation right now? And this is getting into entrepreneurship skills, so that when you do take that time to get to SF because you need more information or a team or funding, you've already hit the mental models you need to, the nodes of or milestones in the projects you're at, so you can communicate this as a business. I agree there's something to be said in terms of like how things work. What is AI? What is full stack engineering?
Yeah.
What happens in this industry? What's out there? What are people thinking about? That's great for information gathering.
Sure.
But if you're just thinking about how to look for business models right now, an opportunity for yourself as an individual, for right now, we'll just stick to the independent hacker, not the venture scalable business at the moment, because that's a lot of variables, but just the independent person wants to make money in a hometown that's not in the U.S.
So I don't know if just going into this to immediately generate revenue is going to be the right path, because I think that you need to get users, and that costs money. And then as you have users, then you have multiple ways to monetize.
Yeah.
That's probably not the approach that I would encourage, but I'm looking at seed stage startups that need to grow into A round, where they start to turn on revenue engines around A and B. So it's just not the area that I'm so focused on. But the one thing that I want to underline is that many of the startups, and right now there's 5,300 startups or projects, AI projects, according to the website. There's an AI for that.com. And I talked to Andre, the founder, and there's 1,000 new projects every month. So by December, Akil, there should be 12,000 projects.
Yeah.
Okay, I've seen a number of these projects, not all 5,000, but most of them are dependent on somebody else's API. Most of them are dependent on somebody else's plugin. Most of them are using public data, which is not defensible over time. There's no barriers to entry, and the APIs and plugins could quickly sever or change. And when I spent time with the Y Combinator class a couple months ago, about half of them were disrupted when the plugins started to happen. In fact, it was here at the hackathon that you were involved with OpenAI here at Shack 15 when those plugins were announced by OpenAI.
Yeah.
And so people were disrupted because they were dependent on somebody else's platform. For anybody who's been around in Web 2, and we learned not to do that. But I'm seeing entrepreneurs, especially younger ones, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, they're falling into that trap, Akil. They're dependent on somebody else for distribution. They have no leverage. And if they do become a successful app on somebody else's foundational model, it's just a matter of time before that foundational model charges them 30% revenue fees, because that's the industry standard for now, like an app store.
Yeah.
So that's very dangerous. So one other suggestion to make sure you have a defensible moat and you're not dependent on somebody else is to get access to proprietary data. and finding somebody, a company or an industry or cloud service or government data where that information is. In fact, 80% of the data in the world is behind a firewall. 80%. So only 20% of it's public. There's way more opportunities to go to somebody who has that data, actually do business to business, broker a deal, write a contract, and get access to that deal and block everybody else out through a contract. So that is what I would recommend. And for those that are in remote regions, countries around the world, find the businesses there that need help with AI and they don't know what to do. Maybe you get access to their data. Maybe you do a plugin. Maybe you train a foundational model based upon their data and you build a friendly avatar or an AI that suits your market. That's what I would do. Is that helpful?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think that's where the information gathering stage is great. What are the interfaces that's working in this economy, this country, or this niche, or in this marketplace?
Yeah.
I can see a lot of things there. You can go to your local government, go to your local DMV, like small businesses. Maybe there's one person who owns like 15 restaurants in your area or something, real estate
Even
moguls.
that. That's right.
Yeah. Just, hey, what's all the
And
stuff you're
own
getting?
that whole market.
Exactly. Like, how do you do all your async and your synchronized messaging and your communication? Can we just augment that through personality of you that you own and then
I'm
have
seeing
a
that.
service there?
So I host an event series here in San Francisco called the Llama Lounge.
Okay.
And we let 10 startups demo, and we look for a diversity of startups from all different types of use cases. And I see people flying in from the Midwest. We've had people fly in from Dubai, Lisbon, and they're trying to do that. They're building LLMs for their specific market, B2B, regional, all kinds of stuff. And so I'm seeing that happen.
That's incredible. What we can speak in generalizations for a moment here, or just can we break it down to a couple classes of entrepreneurs you're seeing here who are quote unquote going to make it or not? What are they missing? The ones that show up, and the ones who have a good head in their head but they're not doing something, versus ones who just might, at a psychological level, they might not have that ability to implement what could be there.
There's the usual tenacity that you would look for, somebody who's willing to pivot very fast and change their company. I think this is an extremely fast changing market, and the foundational models and who's getting funded is happening so fast. And the fact that the big tech companies showed up within months, like so quickly. Google turned on Bard within 2-3 months, pretty fast actually.
Incredible. Yeah.
And they're a big company, and Facebook's readying their bit. And Google's got Gemini coming as well. And
Yeah.
Amazon's readying. It got Bedrock and Titan. All these things are just like pumping out. Titan's not here yet, but it's incredible to see all that growth. So the entrepreneur needs to be ready for those rapid changes, and they're going to have to compete against some of those big companies.
Yeah.
So that tenacity, I think, is one of the things that we look for.
I thought text to music was going to take a second.
What?
Text to music. I thought audio and music generation is very fun. I'm passionate about that space. I play with it just for fun. But yeah, this week we saw Google release a text to music interface that's very friendly.
It's generating music.
It's generating music.
It's all rights approved.
I have no idea.
It must be. It's Google.
I just played with the thing. They
I've seen
move
there's
very
been some
quickly.
startups that do that.
Yeah.
I've seen Traxy that does that.
Yeah.
Over here.
He was here at a hackathon.
Yeah, Tommy.
Shout out to Tommy. He's great. Yeah, but to your point, I don't want to interject in terms of the music thing, but it's amazing how in all the different modalities and where we might find
Every
useful.
modality to be generated.
Yeah.
Text, video, image, audio.
What do we get taste next?
How would that work? Smell, vision. Smell, AI.
Yeah, but you can plug into some hardware and you'll just hit some receptors in your brain. That's where we get to the HEI stuff, right? Which also we have friends working on in SF,
Yeah.
right? Like this is so fun to be here. All these like garage projects are like endorsed, right? And productized. I've seen some neurotech things get funded recently. They're small, they're seed stage or before that, but yeah, there's something there in terms of, we're going to put Gen AI in terms of the user interface side of things, but now I can actually use my data for something useful in terms of wearable tech, not just neurotech is what I meant to say. What is a great source of truth? Sorry, that's asterisk there, right? But where would you find signal amongst all the noise of information right now about AI, especially as an entrepreneur?
Sure. There's
A lot of people are like speaking definitives, but it's hard.
There's probably 3 sources of truth that I consume. One is the Gray Matter podcast by Reid Hoffman, and he interviews the leaders in AI who are building the foundational models. 2 is there's a newsletter by Pete called The Neuron.
Yeah.
And 3 is a newsletter by Brett Kinsella, who writes Synthedia. And they just did a conference like 2 days ago. I was at that one. So those 3 sources are like enough for me to get informed.
Yeah, this is incredible. So 2 subjects I really wanted to get into for you today was your commentary on distribution. We're not talking about what makes a great product. I mean, we can, but as of today, I just had 2 topics, which was distribution right now, because you saw it at marketing and virality on social media posts and building an audience, and then ways to convert come later, but just building that marketing effect and getting attention. That's interesting.
In this market, in the AI market?
In the attention economy of social media age.
Oh,
of
okay.
like everyone making
Broader
noise
than
today.
AI.
Yeah, this is just humans, right? One difference between a great product versus someone else who's making money is just folks know about this one.
It's part of the formula, yes, to have reach, but I think it comes down to being part of a community and leading a community. So when I do, what I publish or I host events, I'm not thinking it as in terms of distribution. I'm thinking about community.
Yeah.
And I've been hosting events here in Silicon Valley for almost 20 years.
Yeah.
I used to host some of the early blogger lounges.
To be clear, it's like the 2 separate topics are like marketing skill sets, because you have virality marketing abilities,
this is
large
tied.
audiences, and then having distribution in terms of what does that mean for you to succeed in this environment as an entrepreneur, is that you have product distribution.
These are all tied.
I see terms. Yeah, exactly.
But
so,
this is tied. The community is your distribution.
I see.
So to be part of a community and to build one around your company, around your product, is an important differentiator. And it's important. And it also means there'll be loyalists and ambassadors as well.
Your user base, maybe leveraging a Discord server or something like that and having them meet each other in some mechanism?
Yes,
okay.
That, or on Twitter or LinkedIn or wherever they are, TikTok, it doesn't matter. Or some privately held community, it doesn't matter.
I see.
So I do think that's really critical, is to enable them to have relationships with each other around your brand.
How does one architect the entire thing out, govern it, make it useful, and not become a time suck?
There's specialists that do that. There's community professionals that offer those services.
Okay.
You can hire them. That's what, if I was running a tech startup. Right now, most of the AI startups are pre-seed or seed. They're very young. So there's 2 people in most cases, or 3 people. They're tiny. But once they hit around A round, they're going to hire a head of marketing. And right after that, they usually hire a community liaison. So that's about to happen. That'll probably happen by the end of the year.
How does one develop marketing acumen? Reaching your target audience, communicating about your product, explaining why this is valuable, why someone should buy it.
Now we've got AI to do that for us, to help us.
Yeah.
So, but I do think you need to interview your customers, and then what I think an AI marketer would do is, once you identify who your target customer is, you gather all of their information that they posted online, as well as you conducting primary research interviews to understand them, and then you ingest that into a model which can then generate content, whether it's Jasper, Copy AI, Writer.com, right, or you're using GPT-4. And so that's what I think the modern AI marketer would do.
What would you be ingesting? Augmenting the personality of your user base and start generating content testimonials for you? Or is it writing copy that sells to them?
Understanding what their pains are around what your product solves, and then you write copy around agreeing that you understand the pain, and then offering the solution and then the benefits.
Okay, this is incredible.
Yeah, that's what an AI marketer would do. And by the way, I just made up that term, AI marketer, because I haven't really met any yet. I know they're there, but they're just getting going.
Yeah, I've seen things like social media campaign, full service content generation will post with and for you co-pilots there.
Yeah, but did they first identify and understand the customer?
That's part of the intake that the user has to put in.
As long as they're doing that.
As long as they're doing that, yeah, exactly.
Oh, by the way, I know that there are companies and marketers that are scraping like the LinkedIn data of their target customer, and even looking at what did they like, what did they share, as some gestures to intake.
This is incredible. Yeah. What are some of the more creative or strategies you've learned recently about what founders are doing these days?
What are the founders doing?
I'm sure you're talking about demos, and you host and you do curate and coagulate a lot of folks in the area, but online and physically. Yeah, beyond just the product, like what are some things that you found that are exciting that some folks are doing, maybe strategically?
Mostly it's just getting the product out to market. I wouldn't say they're doing a good job at it. I'd say they're missing out on doing influencer relations in the AI space, like ambassador type programs. I don't think they've done that yet. And there's a bunch of AI influencers out there that are ready to be fed these products and potentially sponsored. So I think that's a missing thing. I wouldn't say they're doing much. I think the industry is so young right now, it's June 2023, that most of these players are in minimum viable product right now. I'm not talking about foundational models. That's a very different set of the market. That's like C round, raising 100 million.
Yeah.
But out of the 5,000 different AI projects, it's pre-seed. It's like they're just trying to get a product out.
Yeah, this is the application layer, right? Prioritizing technology at the moment.
Right. The way I see the market is the data layer, AI infrastructure, models, AI apps, and then autonomous agents next to that. That's how I see the market.
Yeah, that's exactly right. This is something you've written about, I've really enjoyed and have spoken about here and seeing some events. What is your take and your read right now on agents? Is there something folks are just not talking about? Is there some folks that are not taking to market, and folks interchange agents and applications a lot here?
So if you haven't, so let's just define it. I'm not sure who's listening, but so the autonomous agents need very little human interaction. It might independently operate, or you just give it one text prompt. And you can go try this out with Agent GPT. That's like the place to start.
Yeah.
And you put in one text prompt with natural language processing, and it'll grab that, and then it'll render a whole bunch of tasks, and then it'll go out and execute those. And the freemium version will do 5 cycles. You can buy it, you can do 20 plus cycles, and you buy it premium. So that is extremely powerful. I asked it to put together a fitness routine for me, and it started to list all these things, and it said, you need a way to track that, and it started to code in Python. I didn't ask it to do that. That's incredibly powerful. So I think that is interesting to see, those autonomous agents, as we'll see them for every use case. So I think what we'll see, and nobody's really built this yet, maybe you've seen this, autonomous agent marketplace, where you can buy and sell those existing agents. Have you seen that?
Yeah, it's something that's similar to a plugin story. Like, by the way, I've seen like the concept being displayed.
Okay.
Where it would be like you can rent this agent to do a thing for you. So like
A proven agent.
You're paying for the runtime kind of thing.
And you're
Kinda
paying
like
for the
that.
use cases already built, right? Like you're paying for a number of things. So that's being built, I assume.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I see
mean,
that's.
I don't know about the concept is phenomenal. That's when you get into the freelance marketplaces being destroyed.
Yeah, I think 80% of
yeah.
those freelancer markets will be destroyed.
Exactly.
Because those are all
agent
repetitive
jobs.
tasks
Yes.
done over digital.
Yeah.
Those can be replicated. 80% of those, I think.
Yeah. You know, it's like management of social medias. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
And then they have their own manual aspect of, and each kind of the intention with some of these is that application you're paying to rent or whatever it might be. It can essentially, it feels like to me like a product suite kind of thing. Like
I think it's a marketplace.
Yeah, exactly. And that's that person trying to monetize it like a one-sided marketplace. But the whole thing would be that this can now host your technology, and so folks can develop into it. So you kind of get like the plug-in app store kind of thing.
Yeah, and then of course you'll have agents that'll go find the right agents, autonomous agents for you.
Yeah.
So the theory that we hear and I believe in is that we'll each have multiple agents for us working.
Yep.
So I think we'll have a personal one, like Pi. We'll have one for our productivity, GPT. We might have one for our health that's separate, and we want the data separate, and we might share that with our healthcare provider.
Yeah.
It may grab data from their personal intelligence. And then if you work for a company, they'll issue one. They'll issue, like Microsoft Office will issue Copilot 365, which is built off GPT in a separate data instance.
Yeah.
And then 5, there might be some unique agent that you might want to have with a celebrity or something interesting to your passion project.
Yeah.
So that's how I see it. Do you agree we'll see every person will have as many agents as they do email accounts or social networks?
My take is, in terms of looking at Bing, anything their product suite, we can imagine there, plus maybe a couple layers horizontally around there, is going to be in their products. I'm seeing an interesting concept right now. It just depends on adoption, use cases, and real world performance and things like that. That's when the economics happen. As soon as, oh yeah, people are using this and trusting this, and it's sometimes an agent to me when I see some folks building these things is like just a series of prompt data handling of information, transferring and structuring structured data and outputs or something. Maybe having a function. So an output becoming one of the parameter inputs that does a function for you, scheduling my workout or whatever. It's just like a series of things. Look at my calendar, look at this. It does that autonomously. maybe that's pretty cool. But a thing I'm seeing that I'm thinking about right now is a friend, Travis Fisher, who was on this podcast recently. It's part of the HF0 batch from Dave Fontane's second group here, 500K investments, right, for this batch here in SF. He's building out this open source library where everyone will get agents, agent tools, agent functions, basic things. Maybe the models in economics becomes you have these greater agents, the 99 percentile agent, or that
master
special,
agent.
yeah, these maybe your executive level, like your C-suite level performance. That's a monetized kind of 4-figure subscription. That's essentially more cost effective than actually hiring an executive assistant. Maybe like from 5 figures a year to 4 figures a year could be interesting. Yeah, gains and efficiency of costs and then output hopefully, and complete control on a 24/7 thing. Like I can see that being a use case. And then he'll open source the library for everyone to get their own out of the box agent ready to go for different use cases. And that's an example of one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that feels like giant societal shifts. Now you have everyone can have a content created for you. So
Yeah,
what are you
it's
about?
so we'll all be like executives with our own chief of staff,
Yeah.
EAs, physical therapists, dietitians, therapists, counselors. We'll all have access to those for a few dollars per month.
Yeah, it's incredible. What's that quote from The Incredibles? Is like, everyone's super and no one is. It's like the ending of the first movie. The villain's like, whatever, quoting that. So what happens then, right?
The quality of life for those that have digital access should go up. But just imagine countries where people don't have access to education and now they have the best tutors in the world teaching them. Like the second order effects from this 10 years from now, 20 years from now are significant. Imagine you have the best teachers. Everybody has access to Ivy League education. Doesn't mean you get the network or the logo, but you get access to that level of education. Everybody does.
I mean, a great entrepreneur, innovator, or just society itself, like with the information, it's what people do with it, right? I think if anything, all a network does is get you more information and it gets you more capacity for labor, which is being taken care of now.
For sure.
And it gets you access to resources needed to implement these said ideas and innovation or provisions.
So are you optimistic or pessimistic about AI in 10 years?
Very optimistic in terms of, okay, we're just going to have like complete reforms, paradigm shifts.
What are you worried that could go wrong?
Oh, the little guy gets kicked out. I'm talking like socioeconomic disparity at like an order of magnitude worse than it already is.
It's already bad.
Yeah, so the gap will just widen. Some of those, I'm talking Black Mirror, there's a show called Altered Carbon.
I've seen it.
Yeah, it freaks me out, but I'm like, I just
The wealthy live forever in different skins.
Yeah.
The poor people do not.
Exactly, and this and what happens for it, and actually in that concept, in that universe, I think the population seems to be a lot less. You see the destitute of cities in society past, but you don't see a lot of people like over here. There's hundreds of thousands in San Francisco, but in that show, you don't really see. We can see
That's
hundreds
true.
of folks walking down the street. I think it's because less people are needed, and so the oligopoly at the top can just enjoy high society life, like fleshly whatever you want, and then a few are just sticking around to be subservient to those folks. But that is their existence, quite explicitly in the show. They show that.
It's a good show.
Yeah, it's a little far away, but or maybe I don't know. Far time subject, in my opinion. I'm just looking at what is, but uploading your consciousness and someone owns all that compute and that data, and then the ability to have the technology to have human biological suits, they call skins, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm freaking out about. That's a fun, comical sci-fi show, but it's just the concepts aren't so far removed.
That's right.
20 years from now, 30 years from now, at the rate things are, right?
I think the thing that socially, that I think about and worry about is, will my kids know what's real and what's not real? Because synthetic media is going to become the norm.
Yeah.
And so for them to be grounded in what is reality when we put screens away is going to become even more important.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that's where I think like governance does come in. Like when it comes to like economically or this and that, everyone's just gonna start cutting. Like, when you're a private business owner, laissez-faire happens, right? Like I'm gonna lay off my employees, I don't need them anymore. Maybe you can have repercussions, but then we saw during the pandemic, Elon was like not really, and this is what is said in headlines, right? I'm just an observer here. I was like, I'm just gonna leave and go to Texas, my HQ. You can just do that. And so governance can't really apply in terms of like how to operate your company, but when it comes to taking care of the people and stuff like this, and what technology actually can get revenue and all those other things, and then bank institutions, which handles the payment processing, because your end consumers are still going to be using credit cards and stuff like that. If you have to make them paying cash at a teller store, they're not going to be your users. So you do have to comply. You have to comply in every layer as a business operator here. But yeah, I think that's where government can come in handy, and particularly does, like should, right?
For
It's
sure.
like deep fake watermarks, things like that, like disclosures, things of this nature for this thing to get any dollars any usage. But yeah, bad actors could be a bad actor. We see scams right now. There's this idea of what happens as soon as you get FaceTime, real-time stuff, you can like fake a kidnapping.
And
or
yeah,
something.
voice is already easily replicated with 3 seconds of sample time.
Exactly. So folks where you had the whole thing of your grandma might think that you have to pay for something
And
lose their
or
social
she
security
needs, she's going to be required to send gift cards, yes.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
scams are already happening.
Yes, those scams are already happening. Scams just there's gonna be so folks who know the system very well and know humans very well and create scams. So we'll see. Maybe the ability to actually act on reporting happens faster because maybe somebody sees there's an injury here and they will have some sort of digitized way that doesn't wait on human output constraints of governing bodies and ethics layers and enforcement people for folks to act on a scam being there and source it and track it, like we would hope so. But I don't know. Hackers always against one another, black hat, white hat, right? Yeah. What are you thinking in terms of what's on your radar at the moment, coming to the second half of 2023? Like, how are you optimizing for Jeremiah time?
Yeah, there's some things I'm cooking on. I can't really talk about it right now, so I can't really get into the details. But I'll leave it at this, that I see corporations waking up to AI. They don't know what to do. They need guidance. I see that happening. And then secondly, regulators are starting to move in very fast. And this will become a very hot topic for these upcoming elections. And the EU already put out some policies on AI that they want to see regulated. And they Stanford rated a number of the foundational models, and they did not meet that criteria. So I think that those are the big macro trends that I'm watching. Also is that the VC funding is rapidly increasing at later stage rounds as well. But I think most startups are early stage, and so we're about ready to see a massive Cambrian explosion of AI startups in the second half of this year. I think that's going to gear up. But thanks, Matt.
Yeah, this has been awesome, man. I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
chatting with you. Yeah.
It's a great chat, and we should definitely keep tabs on the market, and I'll be following what you're saying for sure. Thanks
Sweet,
for having me.
Yeah, of course. This has been great, man.
Awesome.